Well, hello again, and welcome back to Growing Up Alien, or we should probably change the name of the show to Shit's Hitting the Fan. So, um, yeah, I chat with a lot of folks. There's a lot of intel being shared on my Facebook page, where I like to be able to connect with people and we share ideas and thoughts. And it's nice because a lot of people are thinking the same thing or had thought or had concerns about something that, they never wanted to share before because you didn't want to be one of those people. So that stirred up trouble. And now it's kind of like, well, now we can stir up trouble. It's just like refreshing in a way. Um, and I have to give credit once again to Louise Jones because she told me this was going to happen. I don't know. It's like I have to ask her when it was because it feels like it was a while ago, like at least more than a year, 2 years, probably 2 years ago. Anyway, and she's like, it's all going to come down. And you know who I'm talking about, right? Elena and Danny Henderson and all that stuff. And here it is, right out in the open. And yeah, this was predicted. And at the time, I was like, wow, it's going to be a while before shit hits the fan. And it happened quickly. Surprise, surprise. Well, good luck to them, I always say. And one thing we've always mentioned, one thing I've always not only, experienced myself, but noticed is that contact happens on an individual basis and is done very quietly. And I think most of you understand how that works. It's similar to the unicorn in the forest in the Virgin story. And almost every contact experience happens that way, where you find some person, average Joe, going about their business and they meet with someone from another planet. And that's it, and that's actually what I suspect is going to occur. Louise thinks so, and I know some of you do too. I think there is definitely the possibility, depending how things unfold, of a larger scale contact experience. But it's more likely that contact's going to be one-on-one. And it is very similar to the unicorn in the forest story. It's an innocent person, it's a regular Joe, and they're out doing their thing. And that is who these people come to. They regularly will come to Indigenous people. They regularly go to people in different parts of Africa, particularly in Australia. Any normal, quiet person. Those are the groups that the authentic kind of individuals. You look at even Adamski and Menger and Elizabeth Clare. Yeah, and that's and for your own experiences, and that's what's important, not that, oh my God, is any of this real, because all these people might be bullshit. But no, 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 no. You have to, it's layers of events, because you do have complexities in all the different stories. And yeah, obviously some of it's fantasy because money and greed. If you need money to survive here and the opportunity arises where you can see that I can make a lot of money doing something, then people will, through necessity and through long-standing feelings of lack or need, will be drawn to that. And that's not a judgment. No, it is what it is. Um, I think I don't think some people would, but I mean, I don't think anybody openly deceives people, in the beginning with that intent. There are definitely some people who do, but I think they get themselves, you start to get yourself in and in and in and in to a point where, kind of like a drug addict, a little bit, and then before you know, you can't get out. They lock themselves against the wall and they can't get out. Um, Yeah, you use. I've always said this, and I know, and that everybody knows. It's like you know your own truth. You don't need other people's stories. You know your own, and just stay with that, right? Just stay with your contacts and the experiences that you have, and the continued experiences that you're having. That's your truth. You don't need other people's. You don't need anyone else to tell you what your truth is, right? So, you trust yourself, right? And whether or not people will tell you that it's all CIA, it's not all CIA. A large percentage is, but it's not all that. Some of it's real. Absolutely. is a mix. It's like everything else in life. So um, one of the red flags I tend to look at is those people who have really unbelievable type contacts, particularly those from the 80s and 90s, were largely not in contact with the group they think they're in contact with. And I suspect that a lot of those people are now realizing that, and they don't know what to do because they actually made an entire empire on it. So now what do you do, right? You know, um, the contact experiences that were coming out of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and then the abduction era of the abduction began to take center stage. So the intelligence community had to do something about it. And of course, they were working with the Greys. So they're like, oh shit, what are we going to do? This like whole so they created the new age. And that's like in this, you think the hippies in the 70s and all that kind of stuff. That was some of it was legit, but then they had to kind of, corral it. So they created contexts. So they would use gray technology, shape-shifting holographs, all kinds of really complex type things to take an unsuspecting person and give them an experience. And then they wanted that person to come forward with you. So if you're a real contactee, they don't want you coming forward. Those are the ones they put the kibosh on. Those are the ones they wreck your life. Those are the ones that it's uphill both ways. So my channel actually, when I first started, because I was forced to do this, I actually didn't do it till a year after, and then they really pretty much threw me up against the wall. And I mean the people I don't work for anymore, the good guys, whatever. I was gaining subscribers. It was insane. Like I was gaining subscribers like 1,000 a day. I'm like, what the fuck? And Linda and saw that. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'm like, it's them. They're doing some shit, right? And then now, after both Ika and I quit, I don't gain a single subscriber. And James Rink, I was talking to him about this, and he brought it up, and he's like, I haven't. It's been 6 months. I've gained like hardly any subscribers, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's right. Because you'll see some channels that just don't move. And it doesn't make any sense. So mine, because mine at that time was still gaining, and I'm like, that's really weird. And then once I quit, it just immediately ceased. It was like literally just stuck. And I even tried. See what you can do is you can bump uh, some of the posts that you put out. So you put some money in, and they'll run a CEO and SEO and try to get it promoted, what they call it. So, and if I did that before, I would gain like hundreds of new subscribers. The last couple of times I've tried that, I've gained like one or two. So that it was all under control. This is all under control. And I will never work for liars or cheats again. I mean, they're I don't, whatever you do, you kind of thing. I'm free. Ika's free, and we're going to stay free. So I'm not interested in subscribe. I don't even I could monetize a channel, but I haven't yet. Louise yells at me. I should probably try that. Like I don't make. There's no money in my channel. Right. I have no books to sell. Nothing. Right. I don't want any of that stuff. I'm trying to get away from society. I have no interest. So, and I never leave my house. I don't travel. I will never go to any conferences, virtually or any others. So, um, yeah. But that's what I'm trying to say here is back in the 80s and 90s, that's when you saw these figures come forward with amazing channeled books and amazing contact experiences of being up on ships and coming back with all this amazing information, hitting the road and telling their story and blah, blah, blah. I suspect that in order to make it seem authentic, they would have been hit here and there by the handlers because otherwise it would have been too slick. Never underestimate the power and the intelligence behind the psyops being crafted by the other side, the CIA and everything, and the victims. I mean, really, these people are victims of a lot of this. So largely, your large books that came out in the 80s and 90s on extraterrestrial wisdom and lifestyle, Arcturians and Andromedans and Pleiadians, a lot of Pleiadians because people like that, right? All that. That's all. Any one of those you pick up, that's not real. It's not. They're not talking to who it's real. They were channeling, but they weren't channeling who they think they were channeling. And you're going to see right now as the landslide, it's going to be a landslide. You're going to see a landslide begin. And I just tell people, don't, just because some experiences are not real or were contrived, they're actually holographic. We're going to talk about MKUltra. That's what it is. They're handlers. They're these people's experience may, and you have combinations of things as well. Like they have real experiences, but then you have the takeover, and they may still have real experiences while they're having the mind controlled experiences. So there's a figure out right now. You all know who he is. It's MK Ultra. He's being MK Ultra because derp, how many of us have been in? I've never been MK Ultra. I was my lab's a little different, but I know so many people, and many of you know exactly what happens in the secret space programs and what you've been through. And if anyone ever drugs you, that's it. That's not real. No benevolent ET will ever drug you. They do not drug you unless some kind of experience that you have I mean, a life saving type thing. That's it. I mean, they are not going to hand you something without explaining it. I mean, that can't happen because it did happen to Bob Renault. So Bob Renault chose to have a chip implanted so that he could have communications and work with them through the Corendi. It's all, no one's forcing anybody. He could have said no. He said yes. But they're always fully telling you what it is they're going to do, why they're doing it, and do you want to do it? That kind of thing. So, yeah, MK Ultra, I don't know if anybody ever still is wondering if it's real. It's completely 100% real. And you can simply, I want to talk a little bit of research, just briefly, that you can do your own research. Please just stop listening to other people and do your own research. This MK Ultra is real. And the CIA documents are in the thousands, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of documents. Just like if you go to Brazil. So Brazil was one of the first countries to come forward in 2023 with archives that were opening up to the public on disclosure, right? On contact, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, there's like, first, there was a waiting list in 2023 to get into the library. In Brazil, the government library, the archives. So it's the waiting. I mean, there's tens of thousands of pages of documents in Brazil to go through. Who wants to? I mean, feel free, right? So I'm actually going to pull up a screen share. This is from the CIA itself. It's their government, simple. This is none of the stuff I'm going to show you because I know it may surprise some people, but I have a doctorate and I went through years and years and years of schooling. And I used to go to Ireland every summer to do research in the archives. And so I could do my thing on colonialism, which oddly enough, my thesis on 18th century Irish colonialism is coming into play here because now I understand in this body what happened here to the Terrans and their degenerated form rather than and I want to Lee Mudway, if anybody wants to look at. So Renata Duman had done some interviews with Lee Mudway, but he actually, I think, explained it in a very nice way that what happened to the parents on this planet is not an ascension. It's going to be a return because they were regular humanoids. Then the Anunnaki came in and fucked them over. So they were degenerated. So the Terran you see today is is an orc, basically. It's a literally bred, degenerated humanoid for enslaved, for trafficking, for mining. It's a resource. That's what happened to this race. So they're not ascending. That's bullshit. All of your love and light shit, as you see this landslide happen, you're going to see that go down too. All of this, fix your bod. Not that you shouldn't be a better person. That happens on any planet. And we all, are doing like this. It doesn't matter. Everyone's trying to be, that's a personal thing. But this whole idea that you got to fix your body, that you got to heal your wounds, not that you shouldn't heal wounds. Go ahead. I mean, we've been fucked over big time. If you want to heal yourself, go and do, makes you happy, whatever floats you, boat, whatever, however you move forward. There's nothing wrong with love. Love is a wonderful thing. I'm not against any of that shit. I'm against the cults. Love and light cults. That's a cult. That's not reality. Because you'll see people, and even in these comments here, they're not speaking I'm all for discourse. I'm all for open conversations. I'm all for searching the truth. But you see the people who drank the Kool-Aid of the love and light cults, they're cookie cutter responses. It's not an individual responding. It's a cult member responding, So that's all going to come down to, and it's going to be extreme. You're going to see a lot of people because there's lots of people who can't, like, they have issues with like changing with evolution, right? They have issues with, this information that I thought was great or that I agreed with at this point in time, I no longer feel has value. So I'm now going to, because of analytical processing, I'm now going to consider something different. There's a lot of people who can't do that. And you sometimes see people, well, last week you said, now you said something different. Yeah, it's called derp. I have new information. So if I stuck with old information that no longer holds water academically or scientifically, I'm going to change my perspective. Like, but you got so many terrorists that can't understand that. Oh, you're wishy-washy. No, that's called reason. That's called that's when you have new intel, when you have new evidence, you revise what you had previously considered to be truth. That's like if you don't, you're an idiot. Simple, right? So there's going to be a hell of a lot of people who aren't going to be able to adjust when this landslide happens because they're in a cult. And if you do any kind of psychology research, you'll find out how difficult it is to pull people who are in cults out of cults. Extremely difficult. So I think we're going to have a big problem on our hands. I hope not. With a lot of these love and light people who have spent years reading this shit that's probably gray, if anything, on how to improve yourself, right? I spent 5 years. I go to the retreats, I ring the bells, I do all this shit, and it's like no, they're not gonna be able to. You're an aggressive, angry person. You're a brainwashed cult member. I mean, it's like we're all in it together. Enjoy, right? So anyway, MKUltra is not an alleged project. It's legit. It's real. People went through this. You probably been through this. James was through it. And what they tend to do with operatives, particularly SSP, and I hear this with a lot of clients that I have, because I was not SSP. I was in the separate, I was MyLab. So it's similar if you were MyLab. But they try to get you to kill yourself. So they use you for a while. And then once they're done, you're not quite what they want anymore. They try to get you to kill yourself. Then once you kill yourself, they suck you back in, use you again, you get recycled. So, yeah, many of not only in my lab and, you've been either actively suicidal or have thought about it from a very young age. And that's actually them entering your mind. I have not had my mind entered in months actually now. So maybe shit's hitting the fan. Maybe. They haven't done that to me recently. And you'll feel it because when you were a kid, you don't understand this stuff. But now we all understand it. You know when it's coming on. You can feel it coming through your body. So anyway, we have lost a lot of people through suicide that was induced from the MKUltra MyLab handlers. So they will do that. They try to get you. And if you don't do it and you really are kind of rubbing them the wrong way. So what they're going to do to me, and I mentioned this to Ika, I said, because I'm not killing myself, so they're kind of like, yeah, that sucks. That's not really working. We've been trying it for like 30 years and it's still it ain't flying, right? They're like, well, they threw everything at me. And I didn't, I'm just an asshole. They can't break me. So I told them, I said, they're going to try to kill you. So they're like, how are we going to mess with this person, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm one of the last people that gets contact. And I told them, I said, I don't want you ever making contact to me as long as they're still there. Because the last thing those bastards are going to do, like even if they're on their last legs, they're going to kill him. So, and I knew this when I had the Men in Black come. And they actually burnt their cookies at that point. So they're thinking, and this is how they operate. You have to think like them. They think like, what is the worst thing I can do to you? And they're like sitting there and they're thinking. So they know that they've tried a bunch of different things. They're like, that didn't work. They tried to get my chickens. They tried to blah, 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 blah. They're like, oh, that didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. That bitch don't fall. I'm like, yeah, that's right. And now they're like, and they know this is, yeah, they'll kill him. So I told him to stay put. And he agrees. Because that's like, you spent 50 something years trying to stay alive. We don't want to, at the last moment, because that's what they'll have an operative there for sure. So you got to just play that. You got to play their game because that's how they do it. And that's another thing I want to mention is because a lot, you say, oh my God, these people are frauds and liars. And like, but you got to understand they may have had a knock at the door. They may have had child porn put on their computer. They're like, if you do this, if you back out of this narrative that you're in, we started talking to you in the 90s with these holographic stories and all these information where you gave to the public on this alien race, which was our creation. Um, if you back out of this now, we're gonna come after you. So they don't necessarily, they won't kill you. Sometimes they will, depends on the person. What is your worst experience? That's what they're going to use. They'll go after your kids, they'll go after your family, that kind of thing. And you'll have operatives come to you personally and be real nice and be like, this is what we're going to do to you. So there are people, and I know for sure that there are people out there now in a very prominent position that have had to knock at the door. So you don't want to attack people. And Louise, I totally agree with her on this. Don't attack anyone until you know their story because you don't know the person. And that's why I wanted to make this a channel and a situation where we all get to talk together. We all get to know each other because that's the only way we can break through what kind of mind control, voice to skull, whatever they're doing, what operation they're doing. See, those people who don't let you talk to them, who gatekeep, to me, that's a red flag. Now, I'm not blaming the person because they probably were made an offer they couldn't refuse. There's a lot of people out there that are now dealing with a really, really dark situation where they were made offers they can't refuse. So that's worth taking into account before we attack anybody, right? I'm never attacking anybody. I'm just telling you what they do and who could be under these kind of situations. So they can't walk away. Like I said, well, why wasn't this person just say, look, I was MKUltra, I'm in the SSP, I don't know what's going on. They can't do that because if they did, they'd be, something bad's going to happen. Probably not necessarily to them, although it could be, but to their family. So I'm going to pull up just briefly. This is CIA. I'm not sure you're talking about this. She and screen share. Okay. Share screen. Okay. Let me scroll up. You can pull this up yourself. Google it. Just Google, MKUltra and look up. So it says CIA.gov. I'll put the links to some bunch of stuff I found just in a regular Google source. I'm not doing any heavy academic shit. You don't have to, right? Unless, well, you can if you want to do a book or whatever, like go ahead. But you can gain a lot of information on your own simply by running a Google or a Google Scholar search. You can find your stuff. Also, university libraries. They're open to the public. You can go if there's a university, even a simple college or whatever. You can go to any of their libraries. They're a public library. They're open to the public. You can't take stuff out because you're not, So if you have if you're an alumni somewhere, you should have rights to their library and or at least get a new card or whatever and be able to get rights to their library. So yeah, access to university level research is not a gate-kept thing. You can do that. So anyway, here it is. This is the MKUltra from the CIA themselves. So there's that. You can see it right there, number one. I'm just going to pull up. I mean, I'm not going to, there's thousands. This is FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. You can request information, demand information from the police, from your town, blah, 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 FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. You write them a letter. Now, what they'll do is not respond to you, but that's illegal. So you have to just keep pressing. I know this firsthand. See the investigation. See, there it is there. Report of inspection of MKUltra. Project MKUltra, number 3. You can click on that. I'm going to go down to number 6. So, I mean, there's a lot of these things. So, this is the MKUltra Notification Program Progress Report. So, I'm going to pull that up. All right. I'm going to pull up the PDF. It's hard to read, and this is the original document. All right. There we go. 26th of October, 1978. All right. This memorandum is intended to let you know what I am doing and what I propose to do. Subject there is. Summaries of the 149 MKUltra projects prepared by, this is what we call primary. And I always tell people that. I know a lot of people question some of the stuff. I work directly with Frank Chili. Frank Chili brings to the forefront almost always, not always, sometimes we do some other people he's met personally. So Frank Chili's met Albert Coe. He's met Commander Bethune, Major Filer. I mean, he's met these people. So that's what he's worked one-on-one with Bill Tompkins. So it's primary source information that I'm getting. I'm, not as old as Frank. I have never had contact with all these people because I'm not old enough. They're all dead. Well, no, not all of them are all dead now. But Frank, that was his role. And in this mission, I said Frank is an archivist. That was his role here, to be an archivist. You have, new generation archivists like Rob Khalil, right? New generation archivists. That is their role. So summaries of 149 MKUltra projects prepared by OTS and the IG, and the categorization of those projects prepared by the Office of the General Counsel have been reviewed. Files on all projects where there is any suggestion of human testing have been reviewed in detail, and a separate summary sheet prepared for each suggesting what action needs to be taken. 7 memorandums for the record have been prepared and sent to OGC and OMS for concurrence, covering 12 of the more straightforward projects, the blah, blah. See that one? Draft letters have been prepared to the University of Oklahoma, the Michigan Department of Mental Health, and Dr. Harold A. Abramson. These drafts have been sent to OGC for review. So what you can do here is now you can go off and you can say, okay, who is this Dr. Harold Abramson, right? Or Gottlieb. You get these names. Then you can go into Google Scholar and look at what kind of research these people were engaged in. You can read their research right there on Google Scholar, right? Now, some research, sometimes because these things are obviously old, which is good. This is in your favor. Because they're old, they're free. Other types of research that you'll get on Google Scholar, you have to have a subscription to the online journal that these researchers publish in. You can get that for free, though, at your university, right? So, if you want to go that far. So there it is, responses. Here we go. Number F, this is what we want. This is the juice, right? We're reading a composite list of drugs used in MKUltra projects has been compiled, and OSI has been requested to check them against their computer file to produce a printout that will describe pharmacological characteristics of those found. When we receive this report in the next several days, we will know what help we may require from outside sources, HEW presumably, for evaluation of long-term effects. Names of individual researchers identified in the MKUltra files have been listed by project. Oh, there you go. Brilliant. DDO has been requested to make available for review any 201 files. I mean, this is a lot. I'm telling you, if you want to research, this is a lot. 201 files they may find on these people, and the Office of Security has been asked to run name checks and give us file summaries, blah, blah, blah. All right. So yeah, you can get, if you really want to dig into this, right? There are criminal cases being heard or getting ready to go to trial on this. James Martinez, he's one of the first whistleblowers, right? So names of principal private researchers have been searched through Who's Who in America and similar library sources. Those most deeply involved represent an impressive array of resources. So there it is. 23 MKUltra projects await action. They fall into 7 groups according to institution or investigator. I am proceeding with the review of those groups in preparation of appropriate correspondence. So there it is, right? Blah, blah. I'm not going to spend a lot of time with that. Another thing, so I'm going to this. I'm going to screen share. So I'm going to pretty much just research 101, right? I mean, just so you get an idea, right? This stuff's real. This stuff happened. It's still happening, right? So you can delve, it's nice. I mean, I think for people who have been in the MKUltra programs, you can have validation. You can spend your time, your free time, going through a lot of these archives, and I'll put in the description some, and you can do your own research. It's so easy to do the research. But it just takes, it's extremely time consuming, extremely. So, but hey, it's vindication for what you've been through. And I know some folks probably had family members who were in the military, and their fathers, brothers, sisters, moms, whatever, grandparents, were subjected to this Nuremberg Code violating type testing. And It's kind of nice to know. Well, it isn't nice. None of it was nice, but at least you have some validation that, your family member who came home from the military fucked up and died from MKUltra, from testing that was illegally done. And they did some serious shit. Not only on the military, also on civilians. And this is all in the open, all well known. A lot of people are no longer with us, but some are, and they're coming forward and suing. So this is hot off the press stuff. So you get vindication of what you may have experiences, the horror. I have a fellow I can't wait to bring on. He witnessed, because he grew up in Massachusetts on the North Shore. What they would do is these government vans would hand out like LSD and stuff like that to, wrong side of the track kids. So they would pull kids not only out of class. These are the poor kids. These are the kids that came from rough families. That's who they would use. They're not stupid. That's who they use. So this fellow was just resisted. He's like, no, I'm not going to get involved. But he saw it. He saw government vans giving these substances to the rough kids to see what would happen. They get addicted, right? Well, we all know who's behind all of the drug shit, right? It just goes without saying. It's the deep state. So you get a chance to review some information. I just want to pull up a video again here. Let me pull up this. Let me actually get rid of this. Now let me, so I don't mess up. Okay. Did I not? Oh yeah, there it is. I'm gonna pull up. Let me pull this up first, actually. Oh my God. All right. Let's see. This video here. All right. Nope, not that one. I got a lot of stuff. Here, this one. Should come in. No, this isn't the video. Where is it? Sound waves. There it is. Go to page. Okay. Slow computer this morning. Kind of like me. Oop, turn it on. Here it comes.
Small, it doesn't fit.
Okay. There we go. Pull it up. Screen share. Okay. All right. Okay. This is the video that I put in my shorts. I thank Linda I think it was Linda, pretty sure it was Linda who found this. This is a unit, this is a class. You can tell this is a college class. So this actually shows you how they did the mind control. This is super, super basic, like I mentioned. But it's when you take two, oh God, like beams of sound that by themselves aren't actually projecting sound, but you put them together, you can pinpoint a target and you'll hear it in your head. This is the most basic. I'm just gonna say what they're using is 100 times more complicated than this, but this is the basic principle behind V2K. So I'm gonna turn it up. Okay.
It's like there's a wavelength like that. That's the word duration. It comes right out of the beam. Now, how do we make that on? Well, they put a modulation on top of the 65 kilohertz. There's a modulation. And now, here's the next thing I have to say. That 65 kilohertz is very high amplitude. It won't hurt you. We don't think. You can't hear it, and we don't think it'll hurt you. And it's very high amplitude. And what happens when you have two sound waves like this? Sound plus sound can create sound, but only a high amplitude. At low amplitude sound waves, it's trouble.
So he's talking about like a laser, right? So there's two, so it sort of piggybacks two sounds, right? On this. So what he's showing is that you can't hear the sound by themselves, but when they come together, when they meet, he says sound plus sound creates sound. That is when your mind processes it as this is V2K.
High amplitude you can create sound. So what happens in this apparatus is the audio sound, the sound that you're going to hear, is actually created in the beam, not here. Because it's created in the beam.
So that's what, yeah. So there's no sound where it's emanating from in the beam, is what he's saying, right? And they're doing this from satellites, by the way. So they're actually even bouncing it, but the sound is not in the beam until it meets the other's beam. That's how they initially were able to do it, targeting one person, but then they can use this now in mind control groups, and they've done this.
Let me demonstrate. Let me turn on. Then we find the piece of music that we write. Yeah. You may not write it. If you don't. Okay, good. Oh, we have a friendly audience here. I think you're just saying it to make us feel better. Right. All right. $2,000. It's not our money. Now, the sound that you're hearing is being created in David. It almost sounds like it's coming from your head. Let me try to scan the whole audience.
Yeah, like he says, it sounds like it's coming from your head. Let me pull this down. Yeah, and that's how they do mind control. And the people that go around doing things like sometimes, they get groomed. So this is the thing that I was going to mention too, that it's possible that 6-7 thing that the kids are talking about. So they're always mind control. You want to mind control the children. So that's a mind control technique where you have basically nonsense. So people say, what does 6-7 mean? It doesn't mean anything. Because what they're doing is they're priming, because the brain is neuroplastic. So if you can get a group of people, so there's that V2K stuff that you just saw there, where it sounds like it's coming from your head. So you're hearing voices. I can't talk about this on YouTube, but a lot of people who have issues where they have mental situations, like anyway, it's caused. So a handler can pick out a person and they can start to do that. They can V2K. And that's how they prime people to do things. So they're using this 6-7, which is, I'm pretty sure, because it's not the only way they've done this. And they're priming the younger generation for something. So they're getting them to all get hooked on a sound. And they're making it so what young people like is this idea of being cool. So fitting in is a big thing for young people. So this is all psychological manipulation. They know how the brain works. They know how do you get dopamine release addictions. They know how to get people to engage in herd behavior. And the best way to do that is to start with young people who are the most vulnerable to this kind of thing. So they piggyback on top of a thing, a trigger. So in this case, 6-7. They attach a coolness. And then they make it go viral. Because you got to ask yourself, well, how does something go viral? How does something like that go viral? Because they are doing it. It isn't because a bunch of kids got into something and then started. No. They create it as a viral thing to reach a lot of young people. It then becomes cool. Everyone wants to be cool when you're like 12. And the old people are stupid. This is how they do it, right? And then they're creating a type of programming in the minds of these young people where they can be triggered with a sound. And the sound doesn't have to make any sense. That makes so 6-7 is just that's not the thing. They're going to do something else. So the 6-7 is the initial priming, getting you addicted, getting your brain to wire that, okay, I can follow something that doesn't make any logical sense. And that's okay. That's what your brain is going to do there. Because when you hear something that doesn't make sense, your brain goes, that doesn't make any sense. So that's no good. This is how they groom. They groom through certain, like same way you train a dog. They have that, clicker training and things like that. This is what this is, clicker training. They're doing clicker training. So they're priming the brains of all these people to be ready to respond in a herd way to something that isn't going to make any sense, but just based on a sound, a clicker, like the click. Because what happens is when you get the dopamine release, so when let's say you're a 12-year-old and you're 6-7, 6-7, ho, 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 look at all my friends, look at all, we're all 6-7, wee. It's fun. They get a dopamine release. They get a physiological response. When a 12-year-old is in a clique, like you see them when they go to concerts, you know, little 12-year-olds get all massively obsessed in certain music groups, certain clothes, all that is MK Ultra. It sounds simple. Like little 12-year-olds, they love to there's like fashion or songs they like. That's all mind control. That's all been done. As you know, the music industry, fashion industry, that's all MK Ultra. We don't have that on Era. We don't, they start with little kids and the desire for toys, the TV, the programming, the TV. That's all the same thing. It's all built and built and built and built because then you get a dopamine release. See, that's what they were using with these fantasy ET groups. Disclosure's coming. I'm in contact with aliens. They love you. They want you to be their friend. I'm going on spaceships and I'm talking with, and I'm getting real information for you because your life's going to change. It's going to be for the better. That creates a dopamine release because who doesn't want that? Ooh, that sounds great. It's a drug. So they've taken these characters that are in your celebrity ET movements and they've MK Ultra'd them and you. And that's why you get the roller coaster. Great things are happening. Nothing happens. Oh no, wait, wait, wait. Great things are happening. Trust in the process. 1111. Trust, trust, trust. Boom, nothing happens. Wait, wait, wait. There's a comet that's going to come and save you. Oh, and then nothing happens. So watch December 19th. Something could happen. I mean, there could be a blue beam. There could be some anyway, because that's the thing. Stuff can happen, but they've primed, and we've all been a victim of this, most likely. They've primed you to seek these highs. Then they drop you, and then you're an addict. You seek the high, they give you the high of the hopium. Things, I'm telling you, I'm an expert. Things are happening. In fact, I have a conference, a bunch of experts that are going to tell you how wonderful. They've been doing this for years. Years. Go back. 2024, 2023, 2022. Go back to the podcasts. They've been telling you the same thing, and it never happens. And that's why they're falling. Because people are like, wait a minute. It took a lot of years, but people are finally realizing it's a psyop. And it was a psychological psyop. And that's why you were going like this. I'm going to leave it at that. Think for yourself. As always, follow no one.